So it was about 5 years ago, almost to the T, that everything changed for me. I went from being a person who was spending her weekends wake surfing and snowboarding and skeet shooting and trying archery and bouldering, whatever it was. I was doing it. I was single. I have no kids. I was just like living life to the fullest. And then I decided to make a decision one day to completely ignore my intuition and put something into my body that I didn't research. I didn't properly research. And, obviously at the time, it was also something everyone else was doing, and I felt pressure to do it because of work and just where we were at in life. So I did it and immediately regretted it because everything changed for me. Within a couple weeks, life just was torture, honestly. I could barely walk. I didn't know if I had MS at the time. I didn't know what I had. Doctors could not help me. There were no answers at the time. I was told on several occasions that they wouldn't have answers because they didn't know the long-term effects of this particular thing. And, obviously the amount of awkward conversations that I had to deal with that were family, friends, not remotely understanding of my circumstances and not wanting to talk about it out loud, especially. And that time frame, I was just like mentally at my lowest point in life. I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of people to turn to at the time. And that was really hard. Especially, even harder was the fact that my life just was gone. I couldn't do any of the things that I was doing before. And I couldn't understand why it happened to me. I was just like, what the frig? Like, I'm healthy. I take care of myself. I look after my body. I try and make the best choices I possibly can, minus that one. And I was just really frustrated because this beautiful life that I was building was just gone. I couldn't do any of those things anymore. I was not that version of myself anymore after that. I never returned to that version of myself either. And those few years were the hardest years I've had. And I built up so much resilience and strength in those 2 years, even though at the time, that's the last thing I wanted to hear. I could care less how strong I was. If I had to hear that, in fact, one more time, I was gonna, strangle somebody. But I couldn't figure out at the time why this had to happen, right? And I'm sure anyone who gets sick wonders the same thing. Like, why them? Why my life? But now I realize that was the first time in my life where I paused. I stopped what I was doing. I was forced to stop and look at my life and see where I was going. And was it a direction that felt like me? I had spent all these years living out this really cool existence. And suddenly when I'm sick and not able to do anything, I'm realizing, I don't even know if I like these things anymore. Like, were any of those things like really me? Was I doing that because somebody else was doing it? Was I doing that because it was someone else's goal and I was just sort of tagging along? That illness forced me to pause and look at my entire life. All my decisions, everything I had been avoiding, every aspect or pattern in my life that I had brought with me up until that point was there for me to witness. And that was obviously incredibly hard on top of barely being able to get through my day. Because suddenly I had to see myself and see where I was. Was this where I truly wanted to be? Or was this what I was settling for? Because it just felt like maybe there was no other way of living or no other life I was going to be entitled to. And now I can see how grateful I am for that happening. At the time, obviously I could not because it was just so hellish. But now I'm grateful because if that hadn't happened, my life would not be where it is right now. It just wouldn't. I would not have made the decisions to move in a different direction because I was forced to. that wouldn't have happened if I did not get sick. And it taught me a lot about my own resilience, a lot about my own strength, and a lot about what I valued in life. And was I going after the things that I really wanted to? You know, you have to stop and you have to reflect when you're sick. You're forced to. You're forced to see everything because you can't live out the same life you were before your sickness happened. And now I can honestly say, I'm glad I ignored my intuition that day, because I just don't know where I would be if I hadn't. Maybe God would have gotten me down on my knees in some other form, in some other way with some other sickness. I don't know. But I feel like that pause, that reflection that happened in those 2 years was life-changing for me. And it's the reason why I am now doing what I am doing. It's the reason why my life is way more fulfilling, and I'm doing things that genuinely light me up with people that light me up. And that wouldn't have happened if that time frame never existed. So if you are also experiencing something that is life-changing, if you're going through something and you're in the thick of it, please know, like, I was you 5 years ago. I really, truly never thought I was going to get any form of my life back. There were a lot of dark moments in that time frame, and I'm very grateful because I had a very supportive family. My sisters got me through 90% of that, along with some very, very good friends. But please know, like, this is happening so that you can stop and reflect and choose differently in your life. That is what this is for. This moment is for you to stop and think, what is this teaching me? Where is the lesson in this? And the best thing you can do is just listen. Listen to the answer and be brave enough to choose something differently. And just watch your life change because of it. So if you need help in that regard, if you need like someone to talk to, if you're going through it right now, please feel like you can reach out to me. I will happily listen, and I will definitely understand you.